Hi, good evening, and thank you so much, for inviting me and make me part of this webinar. So let me first try to share my slides. Good evening to each and every one of you. It's really interesting to see that how many of you, I mean, I think it's almost around 40, 45 people have joined this. This shows, the enthusiasm in, young folks into technology and how technology is trying to shape the future for all of us. Okay. Now, clearly, you must be hearing this word AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, so much around you, right? Everybody is talking about, AI and how AI is going to change the world. It's really true. I mean, everybody's emphasizing, and it's really true that AI has become now pervasive. I mean, if you look into any domain, which affects our, from lifestyle to where we work, what we are developing, AI is actually part of it. Okay. So be it healthcare, be it, driving, be it, manufacturing, any domain that you think about, AI is now slowly and slowly creeping up into different types of, operation processes which are happening there. And I think very recently, I don't know if you get a chance to listen to that or not, but very recently, Elon Musk has given a podcast interview to the co-founder of Zerodha, and in that podcast, he has emphasized on a lot of things. One of the main thing which or I can say that one of the most important takeaway point from that podcast was about the future. It's all about AI and robotics. Okay, so maybe just quickly show you a little bit of it.
Imagine waking up one day and realizing you don't need to work
Yes.
anymore. Not because you're rich, not because you retire, but because AI and robots have reached a point where human labor is optional. That's the future Elon Musk says is just 10 to 20 years away, and his latest comment ignited one of the biggest debates of our time. Musk's vision underscores a future where human labor may no longer be a necessity for survival, with automation and AI potentially reshaping global economies and societal structures. Musk, during a conversation with Zerodha co-founder Nikhil Kamath on the People by WTF podcast, released on Sunday, November 30th, said his prediction is that, in the future, working will be optional. People can play this back in 20 years and say it was wrong, but he thinks it will be correct. In less than 20 years, maybe even 10 or 15, advances in AI and robotics will bring us to a point where working is optional, Musk said. To illustrate his vision, Musk compared future work to the choice of growing vegetables at home versus buying them from a store. The world's richest said that in the same way that you can grow your own vegetables or go to a shop and buy them, it's much harder to grow your own. Some people enjoy it, which is fine, but it is optional. That is how he sees work in the future.
So it's a very interesting podcast, and I really recommend that each and every one of you should try to watch this podcast. And in fact, not just of Elon Musk, you can also try to see, talks from other people like Sam Altman, or, the CEO of NVIDIA, CEO of Intel, anyone if you, look into, they are all talking about how AI is shaping the future. Now, when we see from our country's perspective, India, we see a lot of emphasis of the government and of the industries towards AI. Everybody is fast adopting AI into their work processes, into their how they are going to find the talent, how they are going to utilize the talent, how they are going to build new products. Everything they are trying to inculcate. The learnings of AI, the models of AI, and that's pretty much what the current world looks like. And just like the boom that we had of IT in around the start early 2000, now it's all about how AI is the same kind of attention. Okay, so India in this race is again, because we have a very young workforce, we have a talent which is which holds a lot of potential. But what we really need is, that this potential has to be, trained, it has to be uh, sort of encouraged to understand the possibilities which is lying in the domain of AI and robotics. Okay, so one very important thing we all need to understand, that if we are just going to stick, to the theoretical understanding of AI, that is not going to do anything good for us. Okay, we really need to understand that whatever the course or whatever the projects that we're trying to do in AI, because I believe most of you are from the engineering side and you must have done your engineering or doing your engineering, right? Or maybe you might be working in the industry in your early years. The thing that you need to understand is just running some models on your system, uh, trying smaller projects, that is not sufficient to really understand the depth or the potential of AI. You really have to understand that whatever you are learning, that has to actually translate into something really unique, something really useful, and that can try to solve some real world problem. That is what should be the focus of you when you are looking into courses, or when you're trying to build some project using AI or machine learning. Okay, so it's very important that you have to understand that beside building a very solid foundation or the knowledge base of AI, you also need to understand how you can actually take that up and build something very useful that can be deployed to solve some real world problem. When we look into AI, it's a combination of data. It's a combination of very complicated models, which are definitely compute and memory intensive. Now, we also need to understand that okay, it's okay to have a prototype build using your own system, but ultimately, if that whatever the product you are trying to build, if it has to run in a real world, it needs a hardware support for it. Okay, so it's very important to understand what is the kind of relationship between the software which you are building using AI models, and how whatever the application you are building can be actually be deployed. And for that, you also need some kind of understanding of the underlying hardware. Okay, so hardware is a very very important catalyst in that. Okay, now whether you work in the industry, or whether you are in the academics, whether you are doing some research. Okay, when you are designing complex model, you have to think about different trade-offs which are associated with it. Okay, so for example, let's say today I want to let's say Tesla hires me. Okay, or Tesla hires you, let's say, and they ask you, okay, you need to design some new application which can detect some obstruction on the road. Okay, because it's an autonomous car, automatically you should be able to detect something on the road. Okay, and you have been given a task that the legacy hardware software that we had, this is here, but now we want to introduce a chip which is very small, which has a limited resources, and you have to make sure that your whatever the algorithm you are planning should work on that. Okay, so as a designer, maybe you are just a software application designer, the point is you have to understand that this application which I'm building is actually going to work on a hardware which has limited resources. So you also need to understand that how efficiently can I design this model, right? So you need to understand how this model can actually be compressed, how this model can actually be pruned, how this model can actually be quantized, okay, in some way, so that it can fit within whatever the hardware requirement we have. Okay, so one very important aspect about the course which has been offered here in the collaboration of IPTIF and ICT Academy is about we are not just focusing on the software perspective of it. We are not just talking about different machine learning models. We are not just talking about different deep learning models, because if you look into AI is very vast. Okay, you have machine learning, you have deep learning, and now you see a lot of generative AI. You see a lot of large language models which are actually dominating all the processes that we see around. Okay, from chat gpt 4 5 or whichever the new model which is coming up, to different other LLMs which people, or agents which people are creating to solve or help you to solve the problems, right? So in this course, what we're trying to offer here, we are also focusing on the part where, given some machine learning model, how well you can use this model, how effectively you can compress this model, how much you can optimize this model, and then try to deploy it on some edge device. Now, edge device, again, whether it's about IoT, whether it's about connected communication, whether it's about autonomous driving, uh, the power grid that we see around, you look into surveillance, everywhere edge devices are now used. Okay, smart agriculture, right? Everywhere these edge devices are used, which can actually do a lot of computation on the edge and provide a lot of useful information. So in this course, I guess our focus is also on helping you to understand how complex models are deployed on these edge devices. Okay, so this is in that sense a very useful course, which can not just give you a skill about learning different types of models, the applicability of those models, the applications of those models, feasibility of those models, but at the same time will also help you to understand how these models can be deployed on on edge devices that can solve some real world problems, like which you typically see in the domain of manufacturing, finance, or whatever. Okay. So, like I said, hardware is kind of a catalyst, which is very important when it comes to realizing these complex algorithms. And therefore, we have, consciously, made an effort to put that as an important aspect of this course. So in general, if I want to say that, when we talk about, the prospects, where you can see, the prospects of employability in the future, not just future, maybe today, okay? If you really want to be, employable, and if you're interested in this area of AI and robotics, then you really have to, build your solid foundation when looking into, different kind of programming languages, which can help you to write your effective codes like Python, which is quite popular for dealing with machine learning models. Then you also need to understand different kinds of frameworks which are available to support using these models. Okay, you need to understand how you are going to deal with large amount of data, because data is the key right now. Okay, and also you need to understand what is the relationship of all these core technical skills that I'm talking about with the hardware which this is going to run. Okay, so this interfacing, this interaction, this relationship is something which is very, very critical. Okay, if you have a very good understanding of both these parts, then designing products or finding a very good job in the industry right now will become much easier for you. Okay, so that is something which we really want to emphasize on. And probably with this, I would like to request my colleague Mr. Loman to give you more insight about the course, what is going to get covered in the course, and how what is the learning plan for us. Thank you so much.